or opinions of its guests, advertisers, or viewers. An appearance on this program is not to be construed as an endorsement, and the information on this program is not necessarily considered legal or medical advice. As always, we encourage you to do your own research, and we hope you enjoy the show. Good afternoon, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of Quarantine. Oh no, Occam's razor. I'm living in the past. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. Oh man, the General Flynn hearing just ended. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different things, you better believe it. You guys do me a favor. Don't forget to like and share the broadcast. Help us break through the algorithm. Dewey Layman reporting. The writ was issued. Do me a favor, everyone, sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. Have you guys seen what's going on with gold and silver lately? Well, gold just made history the other day. It hit a record high of $1,933.30, and Bloomberg says it's going to zoom past $2,000 a lot sooner than expected. Bank of America says it's going to be to $3,000 in 18 months, and billionaire Thomas Kaplan predicted in a decade-long bull market that it's going to rush past $5,000 an ounce. If you're sick of low returns, hassle, and volatility, it's time to look at gold and silver. Choose precious metals with Noble Gold and move to an IRA or 401k this month, and you may even get a free 5-ounce silver America the Beautiful coin. This coin has gone up by 17% since this offer started in July. So click the link in the description or pinned comment below to go to noblegoldinvestments.com. Once again, that's noblegoldinvestments.com. Click the link below to get there, and remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Methods, how are you, my friend?
Man, I'm doing pretty good considering the circumstances of waking up, making coffee, and then turning on that fantastic hearing that we just went through.
Oh my God.
But otherwise, man, I'm doing pretty good. I hope everybody in the chat's doing well today.
Yeah, it was difficult. It was frustrating at times. I felt like at least a couple of the judges on the panel were dismissive. I thought that the way that they were going about trying to pull these arguments out of Sidney Powell and out of the prosecutor, the U.S. attorney, I thought it was really telling in regards to what they actually believe might be going on. They were trying to create precedent where no precedent exists. They were making their own arguments for why the writ of mandamus needed to be, approved. And so it was definitely, it was definitely a difficult thing to watch. And more than a few times, they were jumping all over Sidney Powell, like, excuse me, yes or no, just answer my question. That was tough.
If she had said I'm reclaiming my time once or something, that would have been fantastic. But I can agree with you on that, because what you have to understand, and I see other people saying this about how the Court of Appeals works, they have to essentially play devil's advocate. They have to ask certain questions and come at it from that direction, even though we all know. I mean, this is an open and shut case at this point because Flynn's been through enough. We know he was targeted and all that. But as far as the Court of Appeals goes, they have to do it that way. But I guess because we've been doing this for a while, really watching people, and I know a lot of people in the chat do the same thing, you start to be able to pick up on people, like who they really are. We don't know a lot of these judges, but the way they were handling this, stepping over Sydney, they were listening just to find their chance to talk. And you're supposed to be a judge. You're supposed to be taking in all this information. I know they can read transcripts later and all that stuff, but what's your intent if you're not going to give them a little bit more time to talk? We're talking about somebody's life. We're talking about, not just that he's a decorated general, but you should be taking the time to hear out the lawyer of this that's representing Flynn. And they just kept going. They kept cutting her off, like you said, asking, like, the hypotheticals is a word that I would be good for the rest of the year not hearing.
Yeah.
Because they had to do it. It's like, what's the point of doing this? This isn't a think tank. We don't need to be sitting here and doing, like, the hypothetical stuff basically takes away precedents to begin with. Like you said, they were trying to create precedents with fictitious concepts.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I mean, I completely understand playing devil's advocate. That's one thing. But what these judges were doing was they were insinuating that the precedent had already been set for what was it, Rule 42 or something like that. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and listen to it again. But that I'm pretty sure that's what it was. That the whole point of what Judge Sullivan was trying to do was just in case there was some abuse of power or a politically powerful defendant who could potentially influence people who would decide to let him off. They were really getting close to insinuating that the reason it needs to go through is because there's a possibility that Bill Barr could have received a suitcase full of money, which would be a bribe, so that he would drop the charges against General Flynn. I mean, both the defense and the prosecution were unanimous. They were completely in agreement that there is no precedent for this. They said not only the lawyers for both the prosecution and the defense, but also someone on the panel of judges said that there's absolutely no case law which they can point to show that Judge Sullivan should have the opportunity to do what he's doing. And there was also something interesting as well. It was I believe it was the lawyer that was representing the Watergate prosecutors. So I guess these are like interveners in the case who wanted to file the brief in the first place, stating that the language that she used in one of her arguments, which the appellate judges used to make Sullivan a participant in the case, was not something that she could use. But here's the thing. The argument that they used created the placeholder for Sullivan as a participant. However, she was arguing that Sullivan's not a participant, but he's just involved in the case. But what they've done with this writ of mandamus is requesting that Judge Sullivan, actually take part in the case. And this is what calls into question his impartiality. He doesn't have an impartiality. He has a vested interest in making sure that General Flynn is prosecuted. He has, a judicial, I don't want to say anything without being crude. He has a judicial impetus, an overzealous impetus to make sure that General Flynn is prosecuted. So I think in the end, this is going to have to go to the Supreme Court. The writ of mandamus has been created. It's apparently gone through. I don't know if they're just going to go straight into that, and if they're going to hear the sides from the dude that Judge Sullivan appointed, and then Sidney Powell again. But it's just insane that they're going to have somebody argue a case that the DOJ has already said they don't want to prosecute. There is no crime here. What's really interesting to me is that, remember when Judge Sullivan had delayed General Flynn's sentencing, because he was waiting to see what General Flynn's testimony was going to be in the Gulen case, or the Bijan Rafikian, that's his name. Rafikian was the partner with General Flynn, in the Flynn Consulting Group, and they charged him with FARA violations. And except he didn't plead guilty. General Flynn pled guilty because they were going to go after his son. Rafikian didn't plead guilty. General Flynn agreed to testify against Rafikian. Rafikian went to trial and he won. Okay, it got thrown out because there was no crimes committed. So then Judge Sullivan had pushed back General Flynn's sentencing to see what his testimony was going to be, to see if he would give him like a reduced sentence or whatever he felt was appropriate. And then that never happened. So then, obviously General Flynn, and he starts thinking about it, and he's like, well, if Rafikian is pleading guilty to the same thing that they made me plead guilty to, and it's been found that there was no actual crime, why in the heck am I pleading guilty? And rightfully so, he had ineffective counsel. Sidney Powell takes over, and now Judge Sullivan just wants to make sure that he nails him to the wall. It's an insane situation. We've never seen anything like this.
Right, and it's very telling at the intention of it, because, I mean, we already know some of these judges, you would never really hear of them, especially on a national scale, but they get these few chances for the limelight. If you remember listening to I think the hearing, what was it, December 2019, maybe 2018, when they was talking to Flynn, and he was talking about calling him a traitor.
Yeah.
Accusing him of treason in that moment, and you could see it was a soapbox speech for this. So, I mean, I have no faith in Sullivan. I know none of us do either. But something that did come out of this, and I don't know if you've got the Technofog tweet in front of you, but I'm going to drop it in the chat. It was something that was said during the hearing it's a very good point to make, because the conversation here, because they were trying to make the point that Barr might be bribed. That's why he dropped the case. That's what the media would love for everybody to believe. That's what Democrats would love for you to believe.
Yeah.
Well, the point was made by the U.S. Acting Solicitor General Jeff Wall about the dismissing of the charges, at least on the DOJ side. And the quote is, "The Attorney General sees this in context of non-public information." And then, quote, "It may be possible that the Attorney General had before him information that he was not able to share with the court." That would be tied, probably, more than likely, directly to Durham and what he's investigating, and any of the other investigators that are on that, because these situations with Flynn, Spygate obviously cross paths. They're all intertwined, and the idea of what Durham can bring to the table could exonerate Flynn by default, even though he should have already we all can agree with that. The legal path of what Durham's going to do will exonerate Flynn, but we don't want to see him do a day in jail. We don't want to see any of that mess. We don't need to. He needs to be freed and exonerated entirely.
Here's the only thing that I can think that might be a positive here. If they're forced to basically represent their case, and they've given Flynn all of this exculpatory information, I mean, Sidney Powell is going to have to represent all that stuff and show that he didn't commit a crime. What if this information that he's talking about is, going to be made public, and then that's going to get presented at this additional hearing that's going to be coming up, which would at that time basically blow everything out of the water. And then, either way, I truly believe General Flynn is going to be exonerated here. Somebody in the chat said that the swamp is kicking our butts. I don't think so. I mean, this gives another opportunity for additional discovery in a way that there wasn't before. And I know General Flynn didn't do anything wrong. So, he's not going to go to jail. It's just getting drawn out a lot longer than most people would want. But again, I'm not a judge on the appellate court. Neither is anybody else here, as far as I know. Nobody else here is, a lawyer in any of these proceedings. So, I mean, this is how it happens. I mean, I've followed cases for years before. We've been following this case for years already. But other cases are, they take a long time. It doesn't make any sense to people who are not involved in the court, but they have to schedule this stuff, and it's not like that's the only case that's before them. They've got hundreds, thousands of other cases which are also on the docket, which are constantly being processed every single day. It's unfortunate, but we arguably perhaps might have the best justice system on the face of the earth, or we have the potential for the best justice system on the face of the earth, as long as we can get rid of these judicial activists. And that's what President Trump has been doing. He's appointed more federal judges than any other president in history. So it's just something we got to wait on, man. It sucks, but that's how it is, guys.
I agree with you on that. Now, real quick, and then I want to read something that somebody said in the chat. The mods are asking if your PayPal is still good or is it messed up, because they want to share it and just not.
Go ahead and share it, and if it's messed up, please, you guys, somebody tell me. I would appreciate it, because it doesn't tell me. It doesn't tell me if it is. I have to go attempt to donate. So if there's somebody out there who wants to donate, just let me know, and then we'll see. Let me check, and I'll see if anybody's come up.
Well, while you're doing that, I want to go to this comment. Snoozy Baylor, if I'm saying it right, in the chat says, it is about delay. It is completely obvious that Sullivan is biased. Flynn is the keystone if free. I know there's been a lot of, first off, great points there. But as far as the keystone stuff, there could be arguments for what is the keystone. Technically, we would be the keystone because we are a part of breaking the information down and helping wake up the public. But I do agree, as far as the situation when it comes to Spygate in general, they targeted Flynn and did what they were doing to get somebody taken down. And it was two birds on that case, because it hurts Trump to have anybody of his own being taken down, because they wanted to show that Trump, that was during the whole Russia collusion thing, that he's a dictator and he cheated the election and all that. So have, this general taken down that is highly respected by the president and by a lot of us. But also having Flynn taken down because of what he wanted to do and what he knew. He's got so much information available that we all want him to have, his ability to speak freely, because he probably couldn't even talk about things now that are going on in the Durham investigation, because that's ongoing. So we want Flynn to be able to talk and just expose all these things. And I do believe, I agree with you, he will be exonerated. It's just how they get there and how long they can keep kicking this can down the road. We get to that point, but I do believe that Flynn will be in hearings, if not multiple hearings, explaining things in front of Congress for all of us to see here in the near future.
Right. And one of the things we keep hearing brought up is precedent. Okay. The longer they can keep this in a court of law, any of these cases, and setting the precedent, so then it won't be able to be challenged later on if we're using the same tactics against them. That is a positive. So I'm showing today that Marion had sent a donation. Doesn't tell me what time that came through. But I'm also showing, other than that, yesterday Sharon sent something. She said, "Good show, Red Pill. I always appreciate your efforts. Where we go one, we go all." Then Janet, now we're going back to 2 days ago, so we're past the point at which the issue happened. So, yeah, if I see something come through from today, then obviously I will let you guys know. But that's it.
All right, I've got another comment out here I really like from Sean Anon. Good to see you here, bud. He said, "Are they trying to force POTUS to have to pardon Flynn, so not to allow Flynn to be allowed into an intelligence position?" That's a great question, but also on top of that, they want to. This is the election year, right? We're just a few months away.
Yeah.
So if they could get Trump, because they already know Flynn's innocent, he's probably going to, they even know he's going to get away from this and not go down with the ship.
Right.
They need it to be the narrative of Trump pardons his buddy because he pardons his people, and then when Durham and Barr do things, he goes after his political enemies. Mm-hmm. That's the big major narrative that they're selling. So yeah, Sean, great point on that. And I don't know, is that a case? Maybe the chat can listen, or maybe Red Pill. If he has to be pardoned, then does that exclude him from being able to take an intelligence position if it's on his record?
I don't believe so, because a pardon would actually, it's like you're wiping the record clean. I think that would be up to interpretation. I'm trying to think of people who've been pardoned in the past. Scooter Libby, he I think he's in the private sector. I can't honestly think of anybody who's been pardoned that stayed in federal employment or stayed in something like that. So I don't know. That's something I'll look up. Let me take a look. Let's see. Is your record wiped clean? Is your record wiped clean with a pardon?
Yeah, because we're the discussion here in Pexter 6 in the chat's bringing it up about, pardon as compared to exoneration. So that's the question here is if Trump had to pardon and it wasn't a full exoneration, then would that not allow him to be honestly,
I think that it's preferable that General Flynn is exonerated, because that shows conclusively that there was no crime. He did nothing wrong. He should not be subjected to having any type of a record, any type of a criminal record. Let's see. Don't count on pardons. Why do they? Is my VPN on Canada or something like that? Because everything is from Canada.
Yeah, man, I drift all over the world with mine. JLA QAnon in the chat says there's no conviction to pardon. I mean, that's a great point too.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, he pled guilty. So yeah, I mean, we're getting into, and me and Red Pill are not law fairies by any stretch of the imagination. We depend on like Technofog and Sidney Powell tweets just like everybody else who doesn't know. But from what we're seeing in this, we could see the writing on the wall of what they're trying to do, and it's to stretch us all out with whatever legal way they can, go around it.
Well, White Hat says he could contract with the government. So are you saying he can't be like directly employed by the government? I don't know. So, but hey, man, Red Pill's Warhawk brother, it's good to see you here, dude. And then also, I just wanted to say hi to White Hat. Good to see you as well. Leslie, Wheezy, I saw Jojo K. I think Real Red Pill Girlfriend is in a meeting until 2 p.m. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think General Flynn should have to go through the hassle of being convicted. Not only because he didn't commit a crime, but also because the DOJ doesn't want to prosecute him. They have, declined to prosecute him at this point, and it's the judge that's going through this. Now, one of the other arguments that the appellate judges were making was that, Sidney Powell suggesting what was probably going to happen if Judge Sullivan was allowed to go through with his plans. And they're like, well, we don't know what he's going to do. There's no telling what he's going to do. We have to assume that the court's going to be objective and unbiased. But I think it's pretty obvious what he's going to do. I mean, he's brought in somebody who is not a fan of General Flynn or of President Trump to make an argument against the case being dropped, despite all of that exculpatory evidence, despite all of the bad behavior on behalf of the DOJ, despite everything that they've said in terms of the precedent that's already set. There is no reason to believe that General Sullivan is anything but impartial. I'm surprised that they're keeping him on this case. That really does surprise me.
Yeah, I agree with you, and a lot of people in the chat agree with this as well. Regardless of how this gets to an end game in this, we just want Flynn to talk and be able to talk freely and be exonerated and be able to live his life. Because, like I've said on this channel before many times, I wouldn't blame him if he just rode off into the sunset afterwards. Like, he gets exonerated. Go live your life. I mean, you've done plenty. But the way he has been talking, especially since he called into those radio stations a few weeks ago, he was talking about, wanting justice to happen as far as like law and order, and he will do whatever it takes. And he's not finished. And that's motivational for sure. All
right. So I was just going to mention something, and then somebody in the chat said, there are definitely people who have held elected office after they've been convicted of felonies and not having been pardoned. And somebody else in the chat said that they can go ahead and still be employed. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we can get some additional information from White Hat. But I got a couple of donations on Cash App. I will go over those at the end. So thank you very much, guys. I'm actually a little surprised we don't have a play-by-play from Technofog on everything else that took place in there. So definitely going to be going over it a little bit later today. But we do have a list of the judges who are involved in this, because we were trying to figure it out previously, how many. It's a 10-judge panel. And if you go back and listen to it, you can really tell, who's impartial and who has already got their mind made up about General Flynn and the way the government has done their case. So I'm just going to drop that into the chat, and you guys can dig on those judges if you want. Let's see. Well,
before you move on that, because I've seen this before, and I can't remember which case it was. Maybe somebody in the chat will remember. When they've had these hearings before, they give a date, and you always can't tell. It's either September 9th or December 9th or something. Like, I can't ever understand what they're saying. But I do believe that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't get a ruling sooner than that.
Yeah.
All because they say that, I guess is what they say at the end of it. Maybe somebody can, help us in the chat on that. But I do believe that we would get a ruling quicker, and it wouldn't be based on the date they set at the end of the whole thing. But we weren't listening because we were in pre-show.
Yeah. I'm trying to get it pulled up here. I can't find anybody reporting on it directly. Like, let me see. Yeah, I'm not finding anything on it on the web, but I would imagine by the time I do my video at 6, there's going to be a lot more information about it. One thing I did want to say, moving on, is pray for the people of Colorado. Apparently there is a large forest fire there right now, and it shut down I-70. If we've got any Colorado patriots out in the chat, you guys want to let us know what's going on there, I would love to hear about it. But this was initially reported last night or 12 hours ago that there was a large plume of smoke in the Colorado Rockies for an unknown reason. And you can see here, I mean, it's quite expansive, and it's in an area that's not real easy to hit, because they're going to have to go up the mountain. That's going to take a really long hose, or they're going to have to go in with those helicopters that drop water and fire retardants and stuff. Yes, August is hot. August is very hot. So any Colorado patriots out there, you guys, I want to know about it. Brian Haggis, Broomfield, Colorado. No smoke here on the Front Range. And many people saying August is hot. Hang in, Colorado. Anyone notice there is no forest fires in California? I actually did. What happened to forest fire season, Methods?
I don't know. Maybe they're trying to get bailout money through the Rona.
That's what I was going to say, is that there's no need for the forest fires. Plus, everybody's inside, so they've got no plausible deniability for people, throwing cigarette butts out the window or going camping and starting fires. Pretty interesting. All right, so moving on. We've got a little bit more. I wanted to actually show you this this clip from
Judge Wilkins.
This is an actual clip from the Flynn hearing. I forgot I had this queued up, but this is talking about the hypotheticals. It was just ridiculous what this judge was saying. So take a listen.
Yes, just following up on my earlier hypothetical, just so that we're clear. If in that situation the district judge said, I want to have a hearing on the 48A motion, which is unopposed, and I want to have the nuns and priests testify and view their videotape showing this alleged handing over of cash from the defendant to the prosecutor, you would say that the judge has no authority under Rule 48A to hold a hearing and proceed in that fashion?
I would say he does not have that authority under Rule 48A, that he would need to refer it for prosecution by the Department of Justice.
And you base that on Fokker?
Fokker, separation of powers, Rinaldi, every 48A case that's ever been decided.
Okay, thank you.
So, again, he's getting back to the idea that Bill Barr or other prosecutors have been bought off in some fashion and saying, hypothetically, if the prosecutors in this case were bought off, then why wouldn't the judge want to hear about it? Well, the fact of the matter is, if there was some other reason besides the fact that General Flynn was not guilty, or that there was not a crime, or that they withheld exculpatory evidence, which is in and of itself a reason for the case to be dropped. If there was a crime committed by the prosecution, then the judge in General Flynn's case would not have a hearing on it. He wouldn't hear about it because it's a completely separate criminal matter. That would be referred to the Attorney General for assignment to another judge. It's a completely separate thing. And this judge was obsessed with the idea of nuns and priests. I don't understand, why he went there. I mean, perhaps the idea that nuns and priests are, I guess, virtuous and truthful. But it also seemed to me, Methods, that more than a few times these appellate court judges, they themselves did not understand the nature of what was being asked, that they were completely clueless. Did you get that feeling?
Right. I mean, they did ask questions kind of like they were in a class and Sydney was teaching it and going down that road. But I don't know. The only hypothetical that I wish that Sydney had asked back was, what if hypothetically they were targeting Flynn to get at the president of the United States? Like, that to me, would make the most sense on this. Now, Whitehat just sent me this screen cap, so I can thank you for this. It's the effect of a pardon, since we were talking about that before. While a presidential pardon will restore various rights lost as a result of the pardoned offense and should lessen to some extent the stigma arising from a conviction, it will not erase or expunge the record of your conviction. Therefore, even if you were granted a pardon, you must still disclose your conviction with any form where such information is required, although you may also disclose the fact that you received a pardon. In addition, most civil disabilities attendant upon a federal felony conviction, such as loss of the right to vote and hold state public office, blah, blah. But you get the point. Yeah. It's still, as a pardon, there's still a stain on your record, essentially, that you at least have to talk about.
Yes.
Thanks, Whitehead.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that, brother. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is we had a whole another Twitter purge that took place over the last 24 hours. We lost Joe M's new account. We lost Santa Surfing. I know a lot of people love her. Lisa Mae Crowley. That one really surprised me. I actually saw that in real time last night. Lisa had almost 300,000 followers, 245,000 followers. She's been on Twitter for a decade, maybe between 7 to 10 years. She said that she's only been restricted one time and that there was no clear reason why they decided to suspend her. She definitely has an appeal in. And if she comes back, if she's able to come back, then I will let you guys know for certain. She is not going to be creating a duplicate account in the meantime, because Twitter has it as a clear indication in their terms of service that by attempting to create a new account to skirt the ban that they've given you, that is a violation. So they're going to seek you out. And that's why you keep seeing these accounts come and go. They the same person will start account after account after account because Twitter figures out who they are. Now we'll talk about why they're figuring that out in just a second. But let's see. We also lost Sun Q Zoo, another new account. Who else? Who else was there? Oh, Brendan Dilley. That was the other big one.
Yeah, they got him, apparently, from what I see in the chat, was they got him on 2 accounts within 7 hours. They're targeting like that. Now, I see everybody in the chat, or some people in the chat, talking about praying medic being taken. The way it looks on my end, and he does this a lot, especially during Purge stuff, he takes his own account down for a bit. It basically just, to him, I guess it's keeping him under the radar.
Yep.
If they just make everything disappear, because they know if they're going around reading anything they can find to report it, justify, well, then if you take down the account and it's not public.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see where he's coming from on that, but, I wouldn't do that, but that's just me.
We lost Punisher as well. Wow.
That's a big one too, because he just went through the whole trying to get his account back because they updated on his phone and they wanted to send him the app on the phone, that is, and they wanted the phone number that he set the account with, and he couldn't find it. Because we don't set up things with our original phone numbers. But yeah, him being taken down is huge too. He works real hard. He's a good patriot.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people getting taken down. And, you know, it looks to me, and it looks to some other people, that there is a group of people within our own movement who are targeting accounts that they don't like for whatever reason. I don't know, because I haven't spoken with anybody, but this is just what it looks like. It looks like there's a group of people who are going after people in this movement. Now, you know, if you don't like the content somebody creates, or you don't want to follow them, you don't have to, you know, but we're all working towards the same goal, you know? This is why I never say, you know, follow this person or don't follow that person. I want you guys to make up your own mind. I want you to have the choice to do that. But, you know, this is like a movement of Karens within our movement. It's like the Karen awakening or something like that. And I think it's really nasty, and I think that it's really unfair, because I mean, I've seen tweets that say that they are going after these people because they keep trying to create new accounts and get back online. Now, is it smart for someone who's had to create a new account to flaunt that on Twitter? No, not necessarily. I understand wanting people to know that it's you, so you can, you know, get your, you know, your followers back and start interacting with people. But I don't think it's a reason to mass report people. I feel like that's just really, really disgusting behavior. You know, I mean, whenever I see people doing this, like, I just, like, try to stay away from those groups of people. I don't want to interact with them. I don't want to give them, not that I would give them a reason, but I don't want them to, you know, concoct a reason for them to think that I deserve to get taken down. Nobody deserves to get taken down. Even the people who are behaving like little children and who are actively working to take accounts down. Like, grow up, you know? I mean, so, you know, it's like you're at work and you don't like the way somebody wears their pants, and you realize that the hem of their pants is just slightly above the regulations of where it's supposed to be. So you go and tell the manager. You tell your boss, you know, hey, I don't like the way Jimmy wears his pants. You know, the hem on his ankles are too high. It's supposed to come down to the top of his shoes. And I want to make sure that Jimmy gets in trouble. He has to go buy a new pair of pants. And then he goes and buys the new pair of pants, and oh, you know what? That's the wrong kind of denim. I'm going to go ahead and talk to the manager about that one too. Okay? Or maybe you decide you don't like somebody's politics. So you go to the manager and you say, guess what? Jimmy's a Trump supporter. The people doing this on Twitter are no better than that. It's reprehensible conduct. I think that we are all working for the same goal, okay? We're going in the same direction. We're supporting the president. We want to support this movement. Doesn't mean that we have to agree with everybody. Doesn't mean that we have to follow everybody. All right, but stay in your own lane. Do your job and worry about your friends. Worry about the people around you. You know, I mean, why are you making it your business to go after somebody that you've decided you got a personal problem with? I think it's ego. I think it's ego. People decide that they deserve the recognition. They deserve to have people looking at them. They deserve to be the ones to feel like they're important. Okay? And if that's where you're at, I think you're in the wrong place. I think you're in the wrong place.
I mean, we've talked about this plenty of times here about, you know, trying to do our own thing, leave people be, not hall monitor and all that stuff. I've had plenty of stuff I've seen out of, you know, insert account name here. I'm not going to call anybody out because that's a part of the problem that we're having right now, that I don't agree with. I don't like how they do things, but that's fine. I leave them alone and let them be on their path. The internet's big enough for everybody. And the whole argument of, you know, where we go one, we go all, we should all be unified and stuff. But that's fine. But I mean, it doesn't mean that we're all going to want to break bread together and hang out, you know, so let people do their thing. And that, to me, so when I hear about this stuff about organizing attacks or whatever, I don't care really who the players are. You know, the idea of it itself is that we have been fighting for the last few years, And we're getting to a crescendo here, right? Like, I mean, we have the election coming up in a few months. Why in the hell is this happening right now? It makes the entire thing. Now, maybe it is ego. Maybe it is. Maybe they are suspicious of these accounts and they want them taken down. Maybe they have things that we haven't seen. A lot of things happen offline or off the public view. But the idea of going after anybody during these times is absolutely ridiculous. It's the same thing like with the Dylan situation. He can have his own choice, go his own path. If he wants to talk, if he talks trash about people and they talk trash back, fine, have that battle. I don't want anything to do with it. But it's his choice to do what he's doing. You know, would I have done that a few months before the election? Absolutely not, because it's causing problems. But that's his choice, and that's fine. And I'm not going to go out and cancel him. I'm just not going to pay attention to him.
That's the thing. It's cancel culture. It is the exact same thing happening in our movement as is happening on the left, and I don't agree with it at all. You know, I have never advocated going after somebody because you think that, you know, their opinion is incorrect. All right? It doesn't matter if they're on the left or on the right. And honestly, we need to live and let live. And if you feel that you disagree with somebody strongly enough, then enter into a debate with them. Okay? Have a conversation and prove them wrong. Why is it necessary for you to go and make sure that they get their account deleted so that they can't interact on Twitter or share information in support of the president, keeping this movement strong and as strong as we can possibly be? Now, you know, touching on that, they just did I guess a survey on Facebook, investigating groups like ours, like our community, we'll say, groups that have to do with the 17th letter of the alphabet. And they just recently deleted one of those groups that had over 200,000 patriots in it. Okay? Do you think that all of those people in that group got along together? Not necessarily, probably not. Do you think that everybody even knew each other? No. Do you think there were probably people who were jealous, who were, you know, thinking that they needed to get their posts liked or shared more? More than likely, okay? What do we talk about? We talk about that dopamine rush, that endorphin rush that you get when you see, oh my God, I've got a post going viral. You know, people are listening. It's so hard to get people to listen. But now they have learned that despite deleting that 200,000 strong group, there are millions and millions and millions of patriots on Facebook alone that consider themselves to be part of this movement. And this was actually done by Facebook. And they looked at the number of groups that supported this movement. And there's thousands of them. Thousands of groups and pages with millions of members and followers, all that support our favorite Anon. And this is just preliminary. They don't even have a full tally. They don't know exactly how many people they've got, but they just know it's big. And this is what panic looks like. We need as many people fighting for the same thing as possible. What is this? It's the future of our country. Okay? It's the safety of our families. It is our homeland for our children and our children's children. And going after each other because you don't agree with somebody is it's counterproductive to what we are trying to do. Do you care about your country, or do you care about how many likes you get? I don't know. It's a valid question.
Right, but I mean, the major takeaway from this, because obviously they're paying attention because they're taking people down, they're censoring stuff, is that the millions that they can account for, and that's just Facebook. And I know a lot of people, at least a lot of people I talk to, who hate Facebook and don't touch it. So, I mean, of course, obviously Twitter would probably be the biggest hub as far as social media is concerned, but we're everywhere. I mean, you can go, you know, your Reddits, your Gabs, your Parlors. Now, I know a lot of people are asking because, I mean, my Twitter account's probably on the chopping block just from what we're seeing.
Yeah,
I have Parlor, but I also like Gab more than Parlor. Don't hate the player here, but I really like Gab and how it works, because Parlor to me is just too kind of janky. So I'm doing a lot of things over there more just to go ahead and mirror the things that I'm doing now. But the whole point of it is that we're all over the place, so information gets spread, and that's the most important thing. I don't even know if I would make another. I have other accounts waiting in the wings for me to use if they take down my Twitter. But I probably wouldn't even go by anything as methods and wouldn't even tell people. I would just start over and just put information out. And I know where to put it for people to see it. So I don't know. The whole thing's kind of a mess. And there's a comment out here. I won't call out the name, but they say, you guys are way too nice. If you think being nice is going to win this, you're in for a rude. I'm sure you meant rude. You said right. Awakening. To me, what I see, and the reason why I don't say anything most of the time when I see this kind of topics being brought up, is that as soon as something gets said, you get accused of infighting. And if I say something because people follow my account, it becomes a dog pile. And I don't want to cause that, because it ends up causing more division. And then it's the whole, well, we need to be united. And it kind of kills the argument when we should be able to have decent debate. So I like to focus on other things and get the information out there. I have these shows that we do here on YouTube. I have other things I'm trying to get my show off the ground on my channel. I have other things I'm working on. I don't want
methods.
I just don't want to sit in there. Yeah, it muted. I just don't want to sit there. I'm censoring myself and get into all these things about that. So if you don't like that I do that, that's fine. More power to you. But I'm not about to just go scorched earth, even though a lot of times I'd love to. I just feel better about myself not doing that.
Yeah, it's not about being nice. It's about my personal integrity. This is the standard that I hold myself to. So, I don't know. I don't know who you think we're being nice to and who we need to be mean to. But, that's just how I am. If there is an argument against something, I'll go ahead and present it. And, I think somebody has the right to make a response. So that's all. Now, this is actually also about cancel culture, but it is about a different subject. Laura Loomer is running for Congress down in Florida. We've had both her on the program and then also Reba Sherrill, who is also running in the primary as well. Well, as per the usual, candidates send emails and text messages to their constituents, to likely voters, trying to drum up support, trying to get people to register if they're not registered, to get people to come to events. Now, people on those lists more than likely were put on those lists because they requested to get information about a candidate or a person or a service. There are lists you can buy, like for phone numbers, that will allow you to text them and say, hey, this person's running for office. Would you support them? Doing surveys and stuff like that. But getting a lot of those surveys here recently. But as a result of this behavior, which is perfectly average, normal behavior for a candidate, Comcast Xfinity has banned GOP candidate Laura Loomer. Now she has had her cable and her phone cut off because she was doing the same thing that every candidate does. Keeping in mind that Laura Loomer has been banned every single place you possibly can imagine, probably except for Gab and Parler. But this is just another targeted hit. Now, does everybody here like Laura Loomer? I'm sure they don't. There's going to be a mixture of people who feel one way or the other about her. But as a political candidate, the fact that she is banned from virtually every single platform, I mean, that is a targeted assassination of her ability to go ahead and run successfully. They allow all of these other candidates the right to do this, and no matter what you think about Laura and her politics, this is patently unfair. This should not be what happens in America today. Am I surprised? Not really. I'm not really surprised at all. But the fact that it's Comcast, I mean, they're canceling her cable. They're canceling her internet. There are many places throughout America where the only real reliable internet provider is a single one. All you can get is cable. What's she going to do? Go back to Earthlink and get dial-up? What is going on here?
Yeah, well, hat tip for the Earthlink reference. As far as I don't have much to say about it because I've been withholding judgment on Loomer for 3 years now, because of the roots of where she came from. You know, like she was tied into the InfoWars stuff, and love him or hate him, I'm probably opening Pandora's box there. That's where I got introduced to her. Was seeing her on that channel. So I don't know. I'm withholding judgment on all that. I don't tend to trust people first and then pay it and then ask questions later. So that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah. All right, moving on. We have seen what?
While we're moving on to this real quick, we got 5,200 people here hanging out with us. We really do appreciate it. And from someone, he said, we appreciate you hanging out during our lectures. We have 2,000 likes here. If you guys don't mind turning that thumb blue, if you haven't, that would be great. Thank you guys for hitting us up on PayPal, Cash App, all that good stuff.
Oh, listen to this from my buddy J.R. Majewski. To the person who said we were too nice, he says, remind them this isn't a militant movement. It's an intellectual defense of our rights. There you go. You know, join the military if you want the right to be in a militant movement, or join the Antifa if you want to go ahead and be part of a militant movement. But this isn't a militant movement. There are militant movements that exist, and this is not one of them. This is an intellectual defense of our rights. Thank you so much, JR. I appreciate that. All right. So we all know about the unrest in Seattle. Plenty of unrest in Seattle. It's been going on for far too long. We had the Chaz there. They took over that that area with the police precinct inside of it. They drove the police out of the precinct. The response times for police for violent crimes skyrocketed up hundreds of %. Finally, the Chaz was disbanded and the police were able to get back in there. Only now, the Seattle City Council has fully voted to defund the police department. And as a result, the chief of police there in Seattle, Carmen Best, has resigned her position. She's actually going to be leaving on Wednesday morning. And this is also just one day after dozens of businesses were looted again. And she said, it was a difficult decision for me, but when it's time, it's time. I'm confident the department will make it through these difficult times. You truly are the best police department in the country. Please trust me when I say the vast majority of people in Seattle support you and appreciate you. So this is the perfect time, if you are a resident of Seattle, to come forward and make your voice heard. With the Seattle City Council disbanding the police, I mean, we have no idea what that's going to look like. Where is that money that was traditionally going to law enforcement going to go? Who is going to replace them? I think it just keeps getting worse and worse for these liberal Democrat-run cities. And I would not be surprised if you see an even further flight of people from these major metropolitan areas. Who wants to live in a city without the cops? You know, I mean, it's an insane proposition to think that you could walk down the street in Seattle and you know that there's no police, nobody's going to protect you. Okay, somebody doesn't like what you're wearing, somebody doesn't like the color of your skin, they go after you, you get mortally wounded, nobody's going to come and help. That's it.
Right. I mean, if you want to know what happens without the police, it feels like forever ago now, but what it would Chaz happened, and how well was that experiment go? I mean, the fact that they're stepping down and these changes are occurring, people are leaving in droves. We know, what's his name? De Blasio and Cuomo out there in New York are talking, they want their people to stay, the mega money people to stay, because that's how pays the state taxes and all that stuff. But you are going to have to move. I understand and I respect the stay and fight type thing. But if you've got families and stuff and things are going on and you can move, I don't blame you. I don't at all, because of now luckily I live in a place that I don't have to deal with it, but there have been riots and protests that I could drive to comfortably in a short amount of time when they have happened. But there's going to have to be a change, and getting rid of the police is not it. And we all get that. Everybody here does.
Well, I'm sorry, I lost the... Oh, Ghost Picker says, I'm in Washington. They voted to defund by 14% and reduce the salary of the police chief. She only resigned to take pension after 29 years and her salary being cut. It wasn't a virtuous resignation. Well, I think that you can make an argument that that is part of the reason. I know that they cut it by $4 million. It's going to be decreased even more in 2021. I think what we're seeing here is a trend that every single year they're going to shave more and more and more and more off. So I think you can also make the argument that Carmen Best doesn't want to lead a police department that doesn't have the support of the city government, that's not going to have the resources to be able to do the job that she knows has to be done, and that is an increasingly hostile environment for, her and the men and women that work under her. So, I'm not in Carmen Best's head, so I don't know the full reasons or the scope behind her decision to resign. But I think you can make an argument to go either way on that one.
Right. Now, just real quick, I see our buddy Tron in the house. So
Tron?
Glad you made it, man. I know you always can't. So we appreciate you being here.
Oh, Nate Kane's here. He says, was the Purge foreshadowing the Soros plan? Were you talking about the Purge on Twitter? And do we have a Soros plan? I haven't.
Might be talking about Purge the movie.
Oh, Nate, if you wanna clarify on that, I would love to comment. All right, so moving on, we're talking about voting now. There was recently 500,000 incorrect absentee ballot applications sent out across Virginia. They included applications for dead people. Approximately 500,000 were sent to eligible voters in Virginia, and it included incorrect information, and they are working to diligently address the issues. Now, a nonprofit group says more than 500,000 incorrect ballots were sent out across Virginia, and dead voters, errant relatives, even a pet. So this is on top of the cat that already got one in the past. But obviously it raises alarms with the recipients of the ballots, showing that, obviously it makes it quite easy for people to cheat. Now, absentee voting is supposed to be a lot safer than just a regular mail-in ballot. But, this goes to show that even absentee ballots are flawed. They're fundamentally flawed. So just thinking about that, there's a major area for error when it comes to voting by mail in any sense.
Right, and Nate Kane in the chat said he was referring to the movie.
Oh, the movie.
He's right.
Yeah. They often do that. They'll put it out there. Think about Hostel. That movie Hostel. I think we basically have found out that that's kind of what they do. Or at least there are probably people who do that. But this is what they're moving towards. If you want to know what life is going to be like without police on the street, watch the Purge movie series. Frightening, just a horrific thing.
Yeah, but to his point, all this stuff going on in the streets, you could literally take that, because when you watch movies like The Purge and they're doing like the news reports and they show some footage on the screen, they could just take it from all these riots and show it as something that would be during a purge. Like there would be looting, there would be rioting, there would be attacks on police if they were out there. It would be that bad. We are living in something like that for sure. Yeah.
And now somebody said, and they're right, if there are no police departments inside the cities, the county sheriff would take over patrols. However, a county sheriff's department is not generally staffed to the degree that it would take to cover all of that area and cover it correctly. Usually you've got, a county sheriff can operate inside the city, but they have all of those police officers inside the city because of how dense the population is and also because of the density of the crime that takes place there. So although the county sheriffs would be able to make arrests and uphold justice, it's nowhere near what is necessary inside a place like Seattle or New York. All right, so this is going to surprise no one, but a new poll has been released by Gallup. It's a poll of 20,000 American citizens, and it found that Americans hope for and trust in the media is all but lost. They are not excuse me, they're an ever-growing, I keep losing it. They see not only an ever-growing partisanship in news reporting, but a determination by the mainstream media to push a political agenda instead of honestly disseminating the news. I mean, that's exactly what's happening, and I mean, that's what we complain about and talk about here on the show on a regular basis. Methods, you got that clip from Brian Stelter the other day. I put it in the video yesterday, which showed Brian Stelter lamenting the fact that we have now seemingly right-wing organizations, news organizations, which are built up around the idea of attacking Joe Biden. He said the attacks on Joe Biden are getting worse. And then he said, do you see anything like this on the left? And like whoever that woman was, just completely absent any awareness, said, no, I don't really think you do. When in fact, the entirety of the mainstream media, it doesn't matter who it is, anybody on the left, their entire goal, their singular focus is to go after President Trump and try to dethrone him, to dismantle his administration from the inside out. So, I mean, this poll by Gallup and the Knight Foundation, I mean, it is not surprising to anybody who's watching this program or anybody in the news. But back in, so let's see, what is the breakdown? 84% of surveyed Americans lay a great deal of blame for the partisan hostility at the feet of the media. And then back in 2007, 62% of respondents in a Pew Research poll claimed to have witnessed either a fair amount or a great deal amount of bias in news reporting. And then in 2012, that increased to 67%, and now 86%. Only 14% of Americans believe that the news is objective. I think that bodes well for us and our movement. You know, we talk about the silent majority, and if you've got 86% of the American public who look at the news and they realize that there's a problem, I don't think those are people on the left. I mean, anybody I've talked to on the left, they believe that the news is objective. So, I mean, I think that's pointing to a very large majority of people who would side with us ideologically and politically. They believe that the media is biased, and it's biased against President Trump. I think that bodes really, really well for what's coming up in November. What do you think?
I 100% agree with that, because we see that. I mean, we have to pay attention to the media completely, because we have to take apart whatever narrative it is and say this is the real truth. But there was a point made, and I don't remember who said it, but there's a point made about people tune in to the media that agrees with their own views at this point. And they know it's essentially not necessarily a lie, but it's the different narrative that fits how they want to think. You're basically, if you really hate the president and you don't care about facts, when it comes to all this stuff, you're going to tune into CNN because they're going to sit there and agree with you. And that's part of the problem as well, because we would always talk about people who tune in to lefty media. They're just brainwashed and they're really believing this stuff. Maybe they just like hearing the bashing of the president. Maybe they just really enjoy listening to that as compared to other things. But people are waking up to the point of you bringing all this, to the topic for today. We don't even trust most of Fox News at this point. And I'm not trying to speak for everybody, but I get it a lot from people. I really can only enjoy probably about 30 minutes to an hour worth of content of an entire week of Fox News, because you kind of get that interview here, that interview there. Maria Bartiromo is probably, her and Tucker are probably the last ones I actively will listen to, or maybe Mark Levin. That interview with Barr was fantastic. So yeah, I think that we're just kind of waking up to it at this point, and I just think that it all has to crumble.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you. All right, you guys, let me do a couple of quick thank yous here. Hey Jude said that Ben Garrison fled Seattle back in 2008. He saw what was coming all the way back then. Don't doubt it. Ben is a very intelligent guy. James, thank you very much for that. Also, Thomas, he says, I get my news from you, brother. You are the best. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. We work hard here. So that's everything on PayPal. Then on Cash App, Lisa, thank you very much. Also, I got an invitation bonus because Lisa joined the Cash App. Dave, where we go one, we go all. Thank you, Dave. Also got an invitation bonus for Dave joining. Also, hey, Jude, on here as well. My Noble Gold account was up 34% in 11 months. If you guys had any doubts about whether or not you should hook up with Noble Gold, you get incredible returns. Gold and silver are off the charts. And, of course, the link is in the description and the pinned comment. Kyle says, you have the best mods in the business. I have to agree, Kyle. I know that's why Method swiped a couple of them himself, and I don't fault him for that at all. My mods are incredible, you guys. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here and putting in the hard work. Dana is asking if I heard back from Sam Tripoli. It's been a minute since I talked to Sam Tripoli. Amanda, thank you very much, Amanda. And then also my friend Andy, he sent me information on the pardon. So appreciate that. Appreciate all of you. Oh, also we've got Randy. Let me see what Randy's message is. Randy says, keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Randy. I really appreciate that. And then also Deborah. And Deborah said, love your show. This is Trump. Oh, okay. I gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And then Eminem says, what about PM in Queensland getting vax with cap on? I don't know about that.
I saw the clip. I didn't know what the context was. Somebody just sent me the clip blindly. And they were getting the shot in the arm, but when they zoomed in with the camera, the cap was still on it.
No
and
way.
They reacted. Yeah. So definitely, I'll find that, or somebody DM me that on Twitter. I wanted to look into it. I just didn't have time.
Wow. Hang on. I want to see if I can pull that up. Queensland PM.
While you're looking that up, somebody in the chat, and I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, brought up how if it wasn't for like Twitter accounts putting out screen caps from things or like clips from Fox News and stuff, especially Dirty, aka Real Dirty. Shout out to him. That saves time. You don't have to watch the commercials. You have to listen to the arguments, the nonsense, the Hannity interruptions. Which I will always harp on because I hate it with a passion. I mean, that's why we do those things. So we grab clips. It's like if you don't have time or you don't want to tune in or you just don't have the news available to you for whatever reason, that's why those clips get put out. So shout out to everybody that's doing that and spreading those around.
Oh, man. Yeah, if anybody out there can send that to me, send it to my DMs on Twitter. I've got that open. I can get that pulled up. Man, I would love to see that. That's crazy. Let's see. Also need to say thank you to Dale. He says, thanks for all the great work, brother. Appreciate you there, Dale. Thank you for your support, buddy. Okay, so next story wanted to talk about is obviously Ghislaine Maxwell is still in jail. She's going to hopefully remain alive as long as it takes. I have to believe this time that they're keeping a really close eye on her. But lawyers who are representing her, they have filed a motion in federal court that she be released from the Metropolitan Detention Center because apparently the conditions are so bad. The conditions are so bad in there that it's just disgusting. I'm not going to doubt that the conditions inside the Metropolitan Detention Center are not very good. I mean, they're certainly not going to be, a place that somebody like Ghislaine would want to stay. But, let's be honest, prison is not supposed to be Club Med. It's not supposed to be a place that you want to be. Punisher's in the chat. What's up, Punisher?
Or maybe it's not supposed to be, I don't know, a tropical island.
Right.
So, yeah, of course she's not going to be used to it. But, cry me a river about it. Because you're going to have, this is the life that you're living in. Now, as far as what I guess you're getting into, they're also trying to stop, certain information from coming out. And the judge, as I understand it, has to respond by, what would that be, Thursday, the 13th?
Yes.
So there is more documents to come out. But it's just now it's in that part. But this judge has been releasing information like crazy. She's all about getting this information out as long as it's protecting, people that don't need to be unmasked in this case. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely in the middle of it with her, and information's coming out more and more, especially the weird stuff about what's his name, the prince and him and the puppet. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Grooming kids using a puppet. I mean, that's just classic. Classic.
Yeah,
I
you gotta
couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and it's a puppet of himself. Yeah, no, I mean, we'll leave it there. Some people might still be eating lunch, but
yeah,
we are still having more and more documents come out, and each time they're increasingly trying to fight things, so they know what's in there and what's going to come out. So anytime her lawyers don't want information out, we want all of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, period.
I don't know if I said thank you to Amanda, but I just wanted to make sure that I did. Thank you for that. All right, so I got video. Let me just, you know what? I don't have the message open. Whoever it was that just sent me the video, there's a couple, but thank you, all of you. First of all, I want to show this this close up. Take a look at this. That sure looks to me like the cap is on it. Yeah, because that would be the tip of the needle right there that would screw into the portion of the syringe that would hold the medicine. And this is the plastic cap on it. So if they were to fake it, then it would go into her arm. The plastic would stop the needle from entering, and then the vax itself would fill up inside that plastic reservoir there in the tip. So here is an actual bit of the video footage, and you guys tell me what you think.
Perfect push for Queenslanders like the Premier to get the jab.
Oh, that's already. I didn't even feel it.
Cap still on. Look at that. Blatant. How?
I didn't feel it.
Yeah, that is certainly a blatant fake. Wow. That is crazy. I can't believe that they would have the gall to do that.
Yeah, now I'm seeing it in the chat. I don't know where this originally came from. This could be an old clip. But regardless, it's a clip of them filming and acting out like it really did happen.
Yeah.
You know, it is pretty stupid.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Moving past that. Okay, so hey, the no plunge. Hi, Mom. All right, so clearly there was that huge explosion in Lebanon. I also want to touch on this because I had a couple people send me screen grabs which stated that if you spelled out the very first letter of every place that there was a giant fire in the past week, that it spelled out Lucifer. One of the fires was in Belgium, which is adjacent to France, but you would have to substitute France for the country of Belgium in order for Lucifer to actually be spelled out. So, I mean, technically, it spells Lucifer. It's a little like substituting Canada for the United States because it's part of North America. So I don't think it quite works. I think it's an interesting thing to think about. If it had been France, man, I would have been like, oh, I'm on board. This is pretty interesting. But specifically Lebanon, after that incident in Lebanon, you know, I've done a couple of reports about it, had some firsthand testimony from people who were there, lots of video footage. It was definitely an ammo dump. It was definitely an arms reservoir. They were holding missiles and stuff like that. You know, and if you want to check the videos on it, you can see why I break it down, showing that, you know, exactly how we know that, regardless of whatever they said. But now, in the wake of all of that, the Lebanese prime minister and his entire government has resigned. They have resigned. And then in Iran, just within the last day or two, I guess the last 24 hours, they've announced the arrests of 5 spies they say are working for intelligence agencies. So I don't know if both of these things have anything to do with each other. I feel like more than likely they're connected just due to the proximity of how it's happening. But it doesn't say specifically which countries these spies have apparently been working for. Let me see. Now, they were spying in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Industry and public companies and the Ministry of Defense and the Atomic Energy Organization of Iran in favor of organizations of Western intelligence services. Now, this could also have something to do with there was a large fire and a series of explosions taking place in Iran over the course of the last month or two. The explosions seemed to hit facilities that were critical to the development of nuclear weapons in Iran. So you make up your own mind about who could have done that. But clearly the United States has a vested interest in not allowing them to fulfill their dreams of getting nuclear weapons. Obviously, Israel has a vested interest in making sure that that doesn't happen. And, obviously Israel's over there in the Middle East, and they have a long history of inserting agents into the governments of these countries. There was an interesting show that was made about this subject. I can't remember the name of it, but the whole premise was an Israeli national was trained to pretend to be an Iraqi so that he could enter into the government and then get intelligence. I mean, it happens all the time, so I'm not singling Israel out. All the countries do it. Everybody does it. Clearly, China is real big on doing it right now in places like the United States and Australia. Australia, I want to say even more so. They're more interested in just paying off American officials here in the United States, but they're actually infiltrating the Australian government.
All right. Well, I'm going to take this quote out here with a grain of salt, and I ask everybody to do that too. Because Sean and on, if you got anything evidence like that, please DM me that on Twitter. He says, "I'm mostly Lebanese with family in Lebanon, and they all say it's to quote cover up trafficking, and that it was quote supposed to be a much bigger blast." End quote. I'd be fascinated to see how how you could come to that conclusion. Yeah. But even if not, I mean, we know that they do certain things as distractions, like running planes into buildings, I don't know, to get to an agenda or at least cover up certain things. So that would not be surprising. I'm sure there's a lot more to this story than we can even have now. But yeah, thank you, Sean, for sharing that.
It's very interesting. I would love to hear more about that. Like, if you want to email me, redpill78@protonmail.com, I would really like to get like a more in-depth version of that story and information from people there on the ground. That would be great. All right, so we covered a couple weeks ago the story of Michael Madigan. He's a corrupt politician in Chicago. He's been tied to all kinds of corruption for years and years and years. And recently there was a case that was brought against Com Edison there, and he was directly connected to it. And now there has been a RICO case that's been filed against Madison, ComEd, and other people. So this is a putative class of Commonwealth Edison customers filed a civil racketeering lawsuit against the Illinois Speaker of the House, Michael Madigan, Com Edison Company, ComEd's parent, Excellion Corporation, and several other defendants. And it says that, there was payoffs, at least $450 million in damages, immediate injunctive relief they're seeking. But this is now going before the Attorney General in Illinois, it looks like. But now, because this is a civil case, this is different from a criminal case, but it still leaves the door open for Michael Madigan to be charged with actual criminal charges there.
Yeah, and it's a situation that we want to see more of happen. And obviously there's bigger names because we're talking about RICO. We all love that name or that word. Every time you hear it, you're pretty excited about it because that's the best way to take care of mass corruption is to go about a RICO case. And you can thank Rudy Giuliani for that being a major part of our world. But yeah, I'm glad to see it happen. I'm interested to see where it goes because once again, if crimes have been committed, we want to see justice happen no matter who does it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm all about it. And if it's RICO and it's that big, let it be exposed everywhere.
I wanted to ask everybody here as well, because we haven't been live since this happened, but there was an earthquake in North Carolina the other day, and I heard that people, very close to the coast were able to feel the shock waves. Was there anybody here in the audience who was affected by the earthquake in North Carolina. I know it was very close to the border. It looked like it was like right there in the Appalachian Mountains, basically. So if anybody has had the opportunity to experience that earthquake there, I know it's kind of rare. It's been like 100 years. Yeah, somebody said a dome was blown. I haven't seen anything to show that it was a deep underground military base, but received an SBA $15,000 loan. Dragonfly 520, was that a paycheck protection program, or was that an EIDL loan? Because let me see. Judy wants to know if I got her PayPal. Judy, let's see. I don't see it yet. I see on PayPal today. Yes, Judith, I did get your PayPal. Thank you. Also, Hey Jude also said the Prime Minister got a flu shot. Media missed it. Prime Minister got a flu shot. The media missed it. They reenacted it with the cap on for a photo op. All right. Well, that makes sense.
It's still equally as stupid.
Yeah.
Just be honest.
Yeah, James, also thank you to James on PayPal as well. Thank you very much, all three of you guys. Appreciate that. All right, so I didn't see anybody talking about the quake in the chat. My friend in Lexington, Columbia, South Carolina was awakened by it. Yes, Rod Rodenstein, it shook for about 1 minute in Greensboro. That's what I heard. I knew somebody that lived in Greensboro, and Thomas actually lives there, and he said that he felt it for about a full minute. He woke up and everything was shaking. So, all right. So if you guys saw the show yesterday, at the very end, I talked about some new testing results for children. This is really controversial because this is what President Trump's Twitter accounts were. They were like almost suspended. They were just restricted because he said on a press conference or in a broadcast that children are much less likely to get sick as a result of the flu, the Wu flu. And because he said, he used the term immune, and Twitter took objection to it. And so now they're getting to the point where they're deciding whether or not to open schools. Clearly, all the teachers want some unrealistic things. Teachers in many different places are asking for the defunding of the police if they're going to come back and teach school. Methods. There's some other things that came up in regards to the ability for teachers to control the minds of students if they're going to be at home. So they have a vested interest in some of their cases to get them back into the classroom. But, one of the big arguments that has been made by the people who are fear-mongering is that it's not about the kids, because not a lot of kids get sick. It's about the teachers. It's about the administration. And in places where school is opening, they're cutting class sizes in half. I can tell you that my real Red Pill girlfriend's son, I want to say like my stepson, but he's not yet. His school district they're going on and off. So one day, half the school is in session. The other day, they are at home learning on the internet, and the other half comes in. So they're each only going to be physically in the building for half the week, and then the other half of the week, they're going to be learning from home. And then in the classrooms, they all have to, they come in, they all have to sanitize everything. They have to sit, obviously, 6 feet apart from each other. So there's going to be a lot fewer students per classroom. And they have to stagger the lunches. They are going to have big X's on the seats where the kids eat. They have to be so far apart. Well, now they've started doing an increase in testing of children, and it's like almost 100,000 new cases that just popped up overnight in terms of kids, which is probably going to be, used as an example as to why they should not reopen schools. And, keeping the schools closed is going to be a big part of their narrative showing like, well, we can't afford to do this, we can't afford to do that. We keep schools closed, and then if they can successfully keep schools closed, then they can try to successfully close down the rest of the economy and the rest of the world, basically.
Yeah, I mean, this virus has been conveniently fitting every narrative of the left to where I don't buy any of it almost to this point. Yeah. We're back into the schools. The school debate thing is going on. President comes out and says, we need to open the schools. They need to be, the kids need to be back in there. The argument can be made. It's a different discussion on fixing the curriculum entirely. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'm all about homeschooling if it's feasible for any parents out there.
Yes.
But as soon as that comes out and Trump says that, and they're working towards it, boom, we get 100,000 cases. Mm-hmm. It's comical because you can expect it, mm-hmm. that they want to go that route and always do that. And then to that point, and I don't have the screen cap in front of me, was a teacher that was actually, he had no problem having this out publicly, talking about helicopter parents and how are they going to be able to teach and, basically impose what they're trying to influence these students if it's going on, if they're doing Zoom or whatever, to have these to have these teachings, mm-hmm. and the quote unquote helicopter parents are there looming over their own children. And that's the biggest problem to this, with me, is that they have been indoctrinating, and they kind of have to now. We're in this fear thing where now these kids are going to be in schools. They're going to have their faces covered. They have to stay away from everybody because everybody around you can kill you because they might have the virus. And that's shocking an entire generation of children. Mm-hmm. And then, for years that we're going to, because of the fact that MAGA is growing and they're raising their children correctly, and helping them be patriotic, it's not surprising that they're going to be doing this to the children in the schools.
I need to say thank you to the Spicy Conservative. She said, I think you missed my chat last Friday. I am so sorry about that. If they come in like at the end of the show, it's sometimes more difficult for me to see them because I'm trying to close everything out. Also, I missed one from J.R. Majewski yesterday. Thank you very much, J.R., for the support. This is from Nick. Thank you very much, Nick. And then Erica as well. She said, thanks for what you do, man. Appreciate you there. Okay. Thank you very much. Also, it looks like Nick joined Cash App, so we each got $5, which is pretty sweet. So going back to the idea of closing everything down, just the other day, there was this article praising New Zealand and their response to this, crisis. And they had no new cases in 102 days. Well, just a couple hours ago, they had their first new case in over 100 days. And what happened? The New Zealand Prime Minister shut the entire country down. Jacinda Ardern announces the entire country of New Zealand is locked down, and they've only had one new case in 102 days. Then there's only 4 cases total, apparently, and they're all from the same family. These people and their response to this are just completely ridiculous. They're willing to sacrifice absolutely everything for this point that has to be made, that we have to remain in fear. And I think that New Zealand is going to suffer greatly. I can't believe what we're seeing over there.
It's happening. I was talking to our buddy Speaker. Shout out to Speaker 2018. And him being in Australia, he said that a lot was going on out there, and they're not allowing people in certain places to travel that far from their housing. They have to have paperwork to prove that they're an essential worker to go anywhere.
One person at a time can leave the house.
Right. I mean, it's a lot. I know it's bad out here, and especially if you live in a blue state and it's controlled by a Democrat leader. It's a lot worse in some other places and countries because they're really, really going after it.
Yeah. Overall, I just don't understand people. I don't understand how clearly they just want the world to stop. I mean, they're going to destroy everything. The results of this shutdown globally are going to be far more devastating than the results of people passing away from getting these sicknesses. It's just not good. All right, guys. Well, we are reaching the end of the broadcast. And just want to remind everybody, we are going to be back. I will be back, rather, at 6 p.m. for another edition of Red Pill News. Methods, your show on your own channel with Woke Societies is returning tomorrow, correct?
Right. Well, hopefully, if they keep giving me the go live button. But I appreciate everybody for being understanding about that. They just wouldn't let me do it. So, but as of now, everything looks fine. So 3 p.m. Eastern on my channel. Just go to @M2Madness on Twitter, or if any of the mods could share the link. I have it linked on my bio. But yeah, 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. We're going to try to get back at that show because it's a lot of fun, and we appreciate everybody being there for the first one.
Yeah, good stuff. Great show. I'm looking forward to the return as well. Yes, we all expected this, Sean and I'm not really discouraged, you know. I mean, maybe I am a little discouraged. It's upsetting, you know. I mean, but don't worry, I'm not going to let it bring me down. I am still just going to keep pushing forward. I'm looking forward to November, and if you saw the video yesterday, then you know exactly how I feel about it. I also addressed something that happened on Twitter. People were sharing certain accounts that were guilty of publishing really offensive material, and you know, there's a way to share the information without having to share the content so that people have to see it. And I feel, you know, I don't want to get into it. If you saw my video yesterday, I hinted at it. Just think about crimes against children that take place and the things that these people share digitally to remember their crimes forever. And it's illegal to have that stuff. It's illegal to share that stuff. Don't implicate yourself in a crime, you guys. Like I said in the first segment, we need every single one of you because, you know, a fallen soldier is a fallen soldier. I want every one of us to be able to continue to fight on and to be here to support the president, to support this movement, and help get Donald Trump reelected in November. All right, guys, I love you all. Thank you to the mods. Thank you to everybody keeping the chat comfy. Thank you to everybody who did like the show. If you didn't, leave one on the way out the door. And once again, thank you, Methods, for all of your help. I appreciate it, and I love doing the show with you. Looking forward to your show tomorrow. We'll see you guys at 6 p.m. Talk to you soon.